Namhlanje ke lusuku lesibini kwaye kubonakala ukuthi kuqokelelwe zonke okanye kuhlanganiswa zonke i-stakeholders malunga nentsebenziswano ngokujongwa kokwakhiwa kwabantu izindlu ngu-human settlement. Injongo ke yokubana kubekho ezi stakeholders namhlanje kubekho nale nhlangano ikhona namhlanje kukuzama ukusebenzisana malunga nokukhawulelana okanye nokukhawuleza kwe-service delivery, indlela zokufika kwakwalakhilwa kwabantu izindlu. Kwaye njengoko kuthi kokujongwa phambi kwakhiwa izindlu funeka kuqale kutshekishwe kubana ingaba indlela ziza kwenzeka na, ingaba ikliniki zizaba khona na, kwaye ne-police station and abantu abazusokola na kwiindawo abazothi bakhele kuzo. Kuhlangenwe ke namhlanje ukuze kusetyenziswana kujongwane neemeko ezinjalo ukuze u-human settlement inkqubo yakhe yokwakhelwa kwabantu izindlu ingabi kanti iyadileya, kukhawuleze ifikelele msinyane ebantwini. Ke it's a commission ye-regulations apho kuzama ukudityaniswa ne-stakeholders, kuzame ukuxoxwa malunga nemithetho ethi ibekwe zi-stakeholders ezi-under u-human settlement, kodwa ekuthi ibe kanti iyavala ukuthi ezinye izinto zingabe kanti ziyakwazi ukwenzeka. Kusazama uboniswana ke ngoku into yobana kungenziwa njani ukuze kukwazi ukususwa loo red tape ukuze izinto zizokwazi ufikelela ebantwini ngendlela efanelekileyo kwangexesha. Okay. Apha ke yi-commission ye-planning and development nayo yezi stakeholders under u-human settlement. Ngomnye umnyango we-commission apho kuxoxwa khona malunga nezinye zezinto ekunothi kuncedwane kuzo ukuze kukhawuleze kufikelelwe ekulungiseni lo mba kujongene nawo ka-human settlement malunga nolwakhiwo lezindlu. Yenye yee-commissions ekusebhisizizo nanamhlanje.
Then we said that what we need to look at is off-grid solutions as one solution. We need also to look at on the practices of holding land development rights so that we can offset the challenges of developers around raising taxes on utility costs for land that has been mobilizing funding to develop, and we need to have strict uniformity in that respect. Unfortunately, I will have to conclude at that point. Thank you very much for your attention.
Those were the issues that we have discussed, and they were also offering a solution of saying we've got a number of built environment professionals that are out there. You've got town planners that are actually not necessarily employed right now. We can be able to engage their services so that they can assist along those lines. Thank you very much.
We had representatives from a number of funders there, all of whom said they're very keen to get into that funding. NHFC will be looking at green funding. We'll be talking to the IFC's EDGE program in the next couple of weeks, so we should be looking at that sort of funding going forward so that we can actually improve the greenness of our housing and the sustainability of our environment. An interesting one was, how do we fund people with informal income? People who earn an income that doesn't go into a bank or might not go into a bank, people who are selling tomatoes on the side of the road, people who are selling stuff that they've sown. We need to find ways to do that, and it's something the NHFC is going to have a look at and see how we're going to set that up. We probably won't be running it ourselves because it's really not the sort of thing that we have the expertise in, but we need to find somebody who is prepared to run an operation like that. It'll be high risk, but we're happy to fund something like that. Another question that was raised, how do we house people who are currently homeless? And I'm not talking about people in shacks, I'm talking about people living at the side of the road who don't even have that shack. Not something we can really fund, but we need to say, how do we help people like Habitat for Humanity address that sort of thing? So it's an area that does need funding as well that we are looking at. One issue that was raised is small builders. We all look at the funding as funders. We say we're going to fund the development. We'd like you to develop some small builders in that process. We fund the development, they develop the small builders, they move on, the small builders are left behind with no work. We can't allow that. We've actually got to basically have an attitude of no builder left behind. How do we get those builders that are left in after those projects to carry on and have their businesses operate? And finally, NHFC had to take something on the nose. We're told our processes are too slow, and we actually tend to be stricter than the commercial banks. That's a bit scary since we're meant to be developing the failures of the commercial banks rather than trying to outperform them.
We also suggest that there has to be embedded in all processes social facilitation. so that people take active interest and participation in their own development. And we went further to suggest that the reason people see one piece of infrastructure as an enemy to be banned when they are complaining about something else is because there is no sentimental attachment beyond just the consumption of the services or the products that come from that infrastructure. And so it is only when we maximize and mainstream social facilitation that people can truly be part of such development. And we also suggested that there has to be a dedicated funding model and implementation strategy for the PHP. And we were very emphatic as the Commission that what will distinguish this INDABA from many others will be implementation and more implementation. And the Commission suggested lastly that there has to be ongoing, institutionalized and systemic engagements between the department and other players in the human settlements field and civil society organizations.
For their services that require property practitioners, and last but not least, collaboration with the banks to actually allocate a certain percentage of their stock to the black established agencies. From the CSOS perspective, in terms of the program that they will actually be doing, will be really being able, driving the already program that they've started, which is a panel of black agents, capacitating the black agents, sharing and training them with actually established organizations, signing MOUs with them, and collaborating that process and monitoring it properly. The question is, how are we going to communicate that? We're going to communicate it through websites, and also the time frame will be all to be done this year, and we also be monitored on a regular basis using our quarterly monitoring processes. And the impact will be to be reviewed on an annual basis and be looking what actually works and which impact it has and how it can be changed to actually leverage on a better impact. Thank you, Chairperson.
So, moving from here, we are going to have the team working there as led by the HQ of Human Settlement that will be compiling the entire resolutions of the session and compile a document for us. We're giving that team until the 23rd of September, where from then we will share the document with all stakeholders for their own inputs and concretizing the document, and for the record purposes, finalizing the document. But also those that were not in the other breakaways and commissions can get to see the full extent of the discussions and resolutions. Then afterwards, between October and November, the plan is to table that document, one to the technical team, and also to the MINIMAC as led by the Minister for the buy-in and allocation of responsibilities, and also how do we monitor the various stakeholders play their roles in line with the responsibility allocated. That will be between October and November 2022. Now, 3 months after the INDABA, we want to be able to circulate the draft social compact to all the parties that are concerned and parties in the sector, which will be followed by a social compact for signing by all of us. Now, this social compact, we're aiming for 3 months. After the INDABA, we should be able to say we have a draft that is ready to be presented to cabinet and the various cabinet committees. And then also at the same time, we must arrange and organize the various sectors for the signing of the compact. The deadline for this is 6 months after today. So we're aiming to have finalized that by February 2023 and be able to submit that to Cabinet for approval. Then we want to have regular feedback on the implication of the social compact, at least annually, so that also it provides a platform for monitoring of the implementation, so that when we review again, the compact at the end of the MTSF, we can be able to say what we had committed as all of us together, government, civil societies, the private sector, have played their role in ensuring that we deliver integrated human settlement with speed for the development of South Africa. Thank you very much.
Let me just elevate, stress few points what should be covered in terms of the social contract. I've spoken to the Constitution and the legislative, and I want also to elevate point number 3, which refers to the parties that need to ensure a coherent arrangement for consultation and agreement. And this also came sharply during the discussion yesterday. And also to elevate point number 9, that speaks to the incremental process of building social capacity in the various programs and projects during the development process that can be adopted and matched to specific programs and projects. In the human settlement sector, we operate through programs and projects. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Rather than playing a game of catch-up, the time of talking must lead away to the time of doing. Let us now walk the talk. I thank you very much.
The availability of land for human settlement is an issue that requires urgent attention. I'm often reminded as the Minister of Human Settlement that the law empowers me to expropriate land, including without compensation if necessary, provided that such land is suitable and needed for human settlements. I think what is important is that we need to utilize all the tools at our disposal to ensure that we satisfy land hunger in both urban and rural areas. What came out very strongly in the Planning Commission is the manner in which projects that have secured funding and are ready for implementation collapse because government institutions do not make land available on time because of internal government inefficiencies. We'll take this through our intergovernmental mechanisms, including through the district development model, to deal with some of these issues. But more, we've been able to engage with SALCA, and I will be also addressing them this week. The SALCA mayor or the mayors across the country will be gathering this week, and I'm one of the people who will be addressing them. But again, we need innovative approaches to delivering houses so that money is not returned to treasury. So I'm not going to say, I always say to the portfolio, currently our problem is not money as human settlements, because we return money each year to the fiscus. So there will be either we ask for rollovers or we surrender money. We've been trying to say, how do we protect the money within the sector, whereby we try and cross provinces transfers within our own portfolio that we can be kept. But major issue for us is to be able to spend, so delivering of projects, planning of projects in time, but delivering of projects in time, so that we do not have less or under expenditure in the financial year. And those are some of the things that we picked up as well being raised here, and also around even availability. I think I spoke yesterday about the issue of ensuring that long-term planning is important, but also we make sure that we understand that if a project is 5 years, we can't delay them each year in terms of our planning cycle, and that's why we've got to be able to respond to it. Now, we need innovative ideas or approaches to delivering houses so that we don't return those money, but it should not take long to unlock land. As I said, part of the issue cabinet says if there is a need for land for human settlements, there's one that we're likely to be expropriating without compensation in Mpumalanga, because there's been conversations. If they do not agree, we are going to expropriate. We've started the conversation with the Premier, we'll be able to. We are looking at that, and I know most of the owners of land most of the time do not agree with this, but we are saying we can't have land sitting idle when there is no land available for relocation or settling people. because then it goes against our constitution. There are areas where we do expropriation with compensation, and we seal the amount so that we protect the state from not paying 3 or 4 times the value of the land, because sometimes that's what happens. When private sector sell amongst themselves, the price is reasonable. Somehow when we look at our price, when they sell it to us, the price is triple, the price is 4. We want to utilize our bargaining power. As we buy more, we should be able to get a price that is reasonable because of the quantities that we can. Because part of the issue that we have to focus on is the turnaround time. I think there was an issue about we shouldn't become ourselves red tapes. I didn't take it about the person that was referred, but all of us. If we are to provide services government, the ease of doing business with the state needs to improve. And as we've got to pay attention in reducing that tape, I always ask the team, we need to pay attention. I said, when I addressed the strike plan of NHBRC, I said, can we look at how much is an SMME having to pay just to operate in the sector? Because if we don't ask those questions, and how long, if I have to apply, either in terms of my registration, whether it's NHBRC or CIDP, how long does it take for me to get all the certificates that I require to be able to comply? PPRA, for example. Part of the issue that is important for me is to say, when a person has to apply for the certificates, how long does it take? How much does it cost? Because if we don't pay attention to those, then we'll miss the boat. We'll not be able to improve how we do things. So part of what we commit to and what we have to, and starting with myself, is to reducing all those red tapes, starting from my own portfolio. Those that are in the department and all that they know. As we say, part of the issues is exactly what we also putting in place is monitoring and evaluation. For example, part of what we got as feedback here as well is around yes funding but payments. Now, what we have agreed as MINMEC, as an example, we've said quarterly we are going to monitor, and we are requesting both in the provinces and in the national department that when an invoice has not been paid for 30 days, and I know a lot of people say the president has been saying that, but for us as the portfolio, we took a decision that we are going to issue warning letters to officials who are responsible for it. Because I can't go to lower level staff. So my acting DG will have to make sure that he traces when they present to me quarterly to say these are the invoices that we've been able to pay in time. This we didn't pay. Why didn't we pay? Who was responsible? And that person must receive a letter. If she fails to do that, I act on her because she's closer to me. So that's what we have agreed, and we'll be requesting it in the provinces because we agreed in MINMEC that the provinces must do the same, and we'll report each time in a quarterly to say this is what we have picked up, because we currently report on the payment of service providers within 30 days as part of our MINMEC reports. And now we moved because MECs were saying, but we are tired of this thing. We've been talking about this thing, but does not happen. It shouldn't be something that we now have to sit as politicians, have to be monitoring. The officials must do, and that's why we took a decision that we will issue them with warning letters. Eventually they'll find themselves out of a job, just for not paying service providers. But we did give a warning to the officials, for example. We said to them, there are things that must happen within a particular time. If they are not, we are going to take you and put you in front of the communities and say, these are the people we are paying them to do this, they are not doing it. And the reason why our officials sometimes they get away with this, because they are never in the public face. They are not known. So we want their own communities to know they are the ones who take salary and rob government because they don't do their work. In that way, we are changing the culture. Because again, sometimes they say to us as politicians, don't interfere. We will not interfere, but we'll make sure there's accountability. We will not go to the SCM. But if services have not been delivered, we'll go together. If it's the CFO who's responsible, now we'll gladly take receipt to the communities and say, this is the person who didn't pay, who didn't uphold. And that's the culture we want to improve in the services. Quite a number of provinces are starting to gear up. We are improving. We are not yet there, but we are putting timeframes. You can see even here, we are saying this is the roadmap. We go into communities and not engage communities when we do projects. The high likelihood of those projects being disrupted is high. So always it's important to have a buy-in. But we know this is the burden that private sector should not be carrying. We should carry this burden as government. And that's why this approach of social compacting, where we will involve more and more communities, so that when we go and do the projects, they are not disrupted. We are having as well engagement with the security cluster in government, because we are worried about the growth of this construction mafias. They worry us because what we are seeing is that the cost of building is increasing. Instead of just worrying a contractor or a developer worrying about just building a house, they must now even worry about security. Higher security to protect their land, higher security to protect their development, higher security to stop the disruption. It's a lot of money, and some of these people are small businesses. They can't afford. That's why across the country we are seeing some of these projects being abandoned, because project owners then believe that it's no use. I'm not going to make profit, I'm going to go. Because some of them, they come, they demand 30%, and then they go, they don't want to participate. Now, part of the important thing is to be able to say to our SMEs, in this sector you'll be able to participate, but we must do it in a regulated manner. Not haphazard. Would be able, as contractors go on site, will appoint, as we say, local employees, SMEs in those areas to participate. But it must be people who are willing to work, not people who are willing to come in and take and go. Now, as we go forward, in summary, the issues that we've been able to pick up that are critical are as follows: making land available for human settlement, improving the planning and coordination systems in government, creating an ethical, capable developmental state to drive projects, crowding in funding for projects, strengthening the public-private partnership, increasing community participation in the development of projects and human settlements, creating accountability mechanisms for monitoring the performance of all stakeholders, and we need innovation in the sector, in project development, funding, and technical capacity utilization. We all need to commit to a social compact so that we can hold each other accountable. And there are various areas that we are doing, that's why we've not touched all of them, and we know that in each of these areas, there will be things that we are looking at. Innovation, we are looking at alternative technology, so that we can reduce the rate in terms of provision of houses. We get excited, all of us as leaders, when we hear that we can build houses less and less days. But it has to be accompanied by an affordable price for us, so that we are able to utilize those technologies. So it's important for those who are in the alternative technology space to pay attention to our quantum prices. Because when prices are outside the quantum, there's no way we can utilize you. You've closed yourself out. So it becomes difficult. So that's why I'm flagging this one, because it's one of the areas I pick up quite a number of people coming to me to say, we provide alternative technology, we can build. But when you look at the price, it's outside the quantum per unit that we can be able to build, so we can't utilize it. So we would want to appeal that at least let's look at the prices that will allow us to be the consumers of those technologies that we're utilizing as human settlements. Then the issue around even partnership, you know that we've issued, the team in the department has issued an RFP as part of encouraging this public partnership. So there are various mechanisms that we continue to collaborate, to explore, so that we can be able to leverage on the partnership, but also looking at institutions that can be able to come and support us. The engagement with the African Development Bank, engagement with the World Bank to say, do you have funding that is available to support, for example, in our social housing space, so that we can grow that. So those are some of the things that we're looking at and will continue. But what is important for me out of this session is that we've been able to be on the same page. So I can comfortably, as a minister, when I stand in public, speak, I know that this is the same language. I'm not far from the sector, because that's the most dangerous as a leader, where you stand and then people start asking, but where does she get this from? We must at least achieve 80% of what we've really said we want to do here. Because it's doable. So if we can do that, we'll not only change the face of South Africa, but it will actually improve the economic development of this country. We'll revolutionize this economy and make sure that we achieve, as I said, what the Freedom Charter said to us. There shall be houses, security and comfort. It can't just be houses only. They must be secured closer to economic opportunities with social amenities within comfort. And this we can be able to do if we work together jointly as a sector, with all of us playing our role. With that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for gracing us. Thank you for the lovely debates, and for all the panel members, thank you very much for all the work that you have done, and our lovely interpreters who have assisted us throughout. Really appreciate. I'm not supposed to do vote of thanks. There is a vote of thanks, but I just felt as a minister, this is overwhelming in terms of the support. We really appreciate it.